Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 9th, and right now we're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see the cutoff low over the Pacific Ocean. Here's the Hawaiian Islands, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. Here's that system we've been talking about the last few days. It is going to swing down east of us, but it will make its presence felt across the Pacific Northwest here as we bring this flow onshore, clean up the atmosphere at least for a couple days before we start to build a ridge back through mid and later next week and increase the temperatures yet again and introduced forest fires of smoke probably back into most areas west of the Cascades as we go through later next week. We'll take a look at that here coming up. Taking a look at the visible satellite imagery up close here, you can see the nasty air quality across much of the Puget Sound. Goat Rocks fire, Bolt Creek fire, White River fire, and Cedar Creek fire still going strong. No big precipitation event in store for the next few days here to help squelch these fires so they continue to pollute our air. You can see the low clouds along the coast intruding into the coastal range. Southern Willamette Valley getting some low clouds as well. Some low clouds intermixed in here across the Puget Sound area as well. And out towards the Idaho Panhandle and Montana, the valleys out there. Those should burn off by the time you get towards noon today, but you can see the nasty air quality even on into eastern Washington, eastern Oregon as well. Now, taking a look here, this is the 1.33 kilometer integrated cloud water. It's kind of showing these low clouds. This is this morning. You can see it's doing a pretty good job today showing that. And you see how quickly it burns off as we get towards the noon hour or so. Low clouds still along the coastline there. Now, as we go into Monday, you can see the high clouds from the next system as it moves off mainly to the east. Maybe a little bit of light precipitation Monday evening for some of the higher elevations here as you can see these mid-level clouds go by. And as we go on into Tuesday morning, you'll notice there's not many low clouds around. It kind of stir up the marine layer there along the Washington, Oregon coast there as well on and through Tuesday. But then we're going to start to ridge build again and start to bring this flow potentially back offshore and bring that nasty degraded air quality back into western Washington, Oregon, southwest BC. Taking a look at SeaTac yesterday, 77 didn't get to that record high set in 1951 of 80. Check out some of these precipitation values, this record highs. Wouldn't it be glorious to get a system dropping over an inch of rain for us right now? But we are still playing the waiting game here across Pacific Northwest. Portland, look at that record high yesterday, 87. Impressive temperature there, and now 83 is for today. Forecast high mid 80s. They have a good chance of breaking that record high today for Portland as well. As you can see some of these record precipitation totals out there that look quite enticing right now, especially as we're dealing with this drought and all these forest fires. Taking a look at Seattle, Tacoma, you can see the air quality alert. I'm not sure why that's not extended up towards Skagit and Whatcom counties up there, but whatever. You can see that it does include much of the Puget Sound. You see the dense fog advisory for southwest Washington, mainly along the coast. There is a gale warning out here with the next system rolling by here, but this is going to be offshore here. Some strong northwest winds off the coastline there. You can see Spokane here, improving air quality. Potential first frost Wednesday morning, so heads up for that. Now, taking a look here, this is the European last night's run. You see that system, it's well north into Canada, but it is bringing this trailing cold front that's going to bring that onshore flow here. Not a bad gradient across the area, so we are going to stir up the atmosphere pretty well here. But then you can see quickly the ridge rebuilds across the area here. The surface ridge just gets going again as we move in through mid next week here. Now, taking a look here, this is 2,500 feet, 925 millibars. You can see this ridging offshore here. Gets kind of punched down by the systems that moves by. You can see these strong onshore winds come across the region here. You can see why they have that gale warning off the coastline here, but not including the coastline. And then as we go a little bit further on into Wednesday, look at this flow, turns back offshore. Unfortunately, we're going to bring, look at even some Fraser outflow looks like is going to be occurring here with this offshore component coming up midweek. And we're going to be reintroducing that forest fire smoke into the western areas as we go through next week here. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news there. Taking a look at 10,000 feet, 700 millibars here, you can see the ridging over the area now. Another warm day today, but then you see the system really blast this cold air, just misses us east here. But of course, the gradient's going to be strong enough where we are going to stir up the air quite nicely here. So we just get clipped with this cold air here, as you can see going on through Monday, just clips us there. And then as we roll in towards mid next week, the ridge builds again. Look at this. You can plainly see it all the way up across British Columbia, up towards Yukon, the Northwest Territories, and eastern Alaska there. Now taking a look at the European left, GFS on the right, the comparison, there's a cutoff low over the Pacific Ocean. Here's BC, Washington, Oregon. There's Alaska. Put this into motion. Here goes our system through South Alaska, North Canada, just barely clipping the area here. Ridge quickly rebuilds as we go on in through next week. Models are in good agreement there. Pretty similar position there with the GFS and the European on the left. Go a little bit further off into the future. You can see the polar lobe here on the European kind of smashes this ridge down a little bit. GFS shows that a bit too, but a little bit stronger with the ridging here as we go through next Friday. GFS builds the ridge right over the top through BC, more of an elongated ridging all the way up through Alaska here on the European. Gulf of Alaska troughing starts to get going. Both models agree there. Some differences on the actual mean position here, but you can see that this starts to get a bit closer, and you can see both models kind of backing off on the ridging, or at least pushing it east on the GFS and really wiping it out on the European here. And then we can get some potential precipitation maybe back in here as we go through mid-October, 16th, 17th time frame. As you can see, the GFS swings some energy through there in the extended portion of the run too. So we'll continue to watch that. Decent model agreement makes sense as far as climatology speaking goes as well. It's that time of the year. We rarely make it through in October without some kind of systems rolling through here mid and late October. So, but it's not unheard of that we remain completely dry through October, but it's very rare. We usually do get some systems rolling through here. So taking a look here, this is Wednesday, 15Z next week. The ridge is rebuilt. You can see it plainly over the Pacific Northwest. Here is Hawaii, Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon. Now as we look a little closer, here's 15Z Wednesday. Look at this inversion that exists Wednesday morning. Pretty good moisture at the surface there, up into the 40s, mid 40s, and you can see light winds at the surface here. So we have the potential for fog across some of the Puget Sound there, and that's going to be the case for some of the other valley areas elsewhere, especially west of the Cascades. So let's go ahead and move this up ahead here. Let's go up towards 90 hours out here, and we'll go ahead and see Thursday morning. We'll go out to 9Z, 12Z, and you can see Thursday morning as well, mid 40s. A very strong inversion exists. These little circles mean calm winds all the way up through, 4,000 or 5,000 feet here. So we might be pretty stagnant around the area. Now, as we see this inversion in the morning, that's kind of why the smoke lays down low to the surface. This is kind of why some of the mornings have worse air qualities in some areas than others. But as we go through the afternoon, 1, 2, 3, 4, notice we kind of wipe out that inversion. We warm up at the surface there, and that allows some of the smoke at least to mix a little bit up through the atmosphere, even though we still have light winds pushing things around. But you can see we have that a big gap between the temperature and the dew point there, so we burn off those low clouds. We kind of wipe out that inversion for the most part. Warm up towards 70 degrees here. This would be Thursday afternoon. And we get a little bit of relief from some of the worst pollutants here, but then by the time we go back into the next morning here, we kind of lock things down again and bring back that inversion for the morning. So hopefully that helps understand what's kind of going on during these diurnal and nocturnal cycles here across the Pacific Northwest. Here is the HER 3KM. You can see the degraded air quality all the way out over the coastline here. Now, watch what happens here, though, as we go on in through this afternoon and this evening. Look, you can kind of see we're getting this air quality stirred up here. And look at this. Should be some nice clean air by the time we get towards Tuesday morning here. But again, I caution you, we're not getting a precipitation event with this system, and then we're going to start to bring that flow back offshore again, and you guys know what that means. These forest fires are going to still be smoldering at least and start to bring that reduced air quality back into our areas. Now this is looking at the spaghetti plot. You can see the ridge plainly over the area. Move into the future a little bit here, and you see the system just clip the area, kind of punch the ridge back a bit, clean us out for a couple days. Then this ridge, very good agreement in this ridging coming up here. I mean, look at this. This is October. This is over 3 days out now, a little bit over 3 days out, 3.5, and still a very strong signal for ridging next week. You can see as we go out a little bit further into the future here, you can see the spaghetti plot start to get a little squirrely here, and we start to bring some troughing nearby here by the 17th. So we have some potential for maybe a weak system to come by here through mid-October and then maybe a little stronger one as we moved in towards later October. But you can see by this point, look at just the mess of spaghetti plot. That's why they call it the spaghetti plot. It looks like noodles just all over a plate here. You can see some runs have colder air, some runs have still ridging around as we go in towards October 21st. So that's why confidence is still low. It's almost always low at this type of range here. This is looking 12 days out there. Rogue Valley, Medford, check out the little bit of a cool down, then the bump back was the ridging takes back over again as we go in towards next weekend. Then the potential for a pattern change as we go on in through mid-October here. We'll continue to watch that as we get closer. Seattle, Tacoma, you can see the drop down in temperatures, maybe upper 60s, then the bounce back again in towards the 70s here later next week. And for next weekend, another nice weekend on store potentially, but the forest fire smoke kind of makes that hard to enjoy too much. Then you can see the potential for a pattern change, more seasonable temperatures as we go through mid and later October. Portland, same thing here. Maybe another record high today, brings that temperature back down for Monday and Tuesday, cleans the air out, and then bounces them right back up into potential lower 80s, and then maybe the pattern change following. Seattle, Tacoma, just a miserable signal here for precipitation, maybe a hundredth of an inch or a trace if we're lucky. Then you can see about the 17th, things start to change here. We start to have more agreement that some kind of a system is going to be rolling through here sometime between the 17th and the 22nd of October. Seattle, Tacoma, windstorm hunting. As the systems move in, you can see there's actually a few 45 miles per hour, 45, 43, 55, 40, 48. So there is a little bit of life out there in the jet stream and the Gulf of Alaska trough here. Maybe we can get some kind of something above a weak system to bring some precipitation at least and some winds to clean out this area for the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, the fantasy windstorm hunt, it's kind of in effect here. We'll continue to watch this as we go. The GFS is kind of has the same thing here, but this is the GFS for some reason, even when there's windstorms coming, does not do well with these wind forecasts, even though it does show some gusts up into the 40s. So you can kind of it's kind of showing similar to the European. Once you learn the GFS, you realize it doesn't show wind speeds as high, and it really doesn't show as many members with the potential for windstorms as the European. It's not that useful of a tool. Stevens Pass, you can see barely any precipitation showing up in the system as it swings by on Monday night to Tuesday morning, but then you can see the potential for the pattern change as we go through the extended forecast. This is the GFS as well. The European the GFS is a bit more dry here. You can see some runs with no precipitation at all and some with some pretty big values there through the extended. Here's Spokane. This is a cross temperature here. You can see the little bit of a cool down here as we go into Tuesday morning, but then you can see the ridge that's going to build back over the area, and you can kind of see the warmer afternoons that exist here. Then the potential pattern change well out to mid-October. You can see Seattle, Tacoma. Here's our little lobe of cold air kind of swing through here and clean us up for a couple days, then bring some warm temperatures back again through next weekend, and then the potential pattern change. So this is my house. This is the last 2 weeks. We've been going through these periods of good and poor air quality, and then we brought it back up, cool, and brought it back down a little bit. But now look at the last few days here. This is the 5th. And now we're on the morning of the 9th here. We've just had this poor air quality. Not poor, but it's unhealthy for sensitive groups, at least here across the region. And the smoke, we just cannot get it out of here. But that's the good news of this system swinging down to the east of us. It is going to bring some relief, at least for a couple of days, before we probably bring it back in here mid and later next week. So here's the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. Look at this. October 16th to 22nd. I say take this with a grain of salt, because we do have signs of possibly a pattern change during this time period here. So I'm not sure I would have put such a bullseye out here for this time period, but it is what it is. Precipitation below average. You can see the little tip of Northwest Washington for average here. So maybe they're trying to gradually work us into maybe some average precipitation chances as we go here through mid and later October. We'll see. Now, this is looking at the MJO here, Madden-Julian oscillation. So you can see it's been existing inside the circle. When you've got these plots inside the circle, that means the Madden-Julian oscillation is fairly inactive when it's inside the circle. Now you can see the forecast comes out here, day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can see by day 9 or 10, we start to get more of an active Madden-Julian oscillation. It starts to actively move outside of the circle here and then come out into region 6 and 7, which is the Western Pacific. It's kind of been hanging out over the maritime continent here, and now it looks like it may be on the move and getting stronger here, and that could help at least change up the energy transfer into the mid-latitudes downstream here over the Western Pacific, and that could potentially be the key to our pattern change here for more precipitation and maybe finally bringing some systems into the Pacific Northwest. We do not understand the Madden-Julian Oscillation that well yet, so you got to take these forecasts with a grain of salt, but there is some signs that it will be getting more active and moving out of the Western Pacific, as you can see here. So anyway, I thought you guys might like to see that. But again, you can't take anything, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, you have to be careful with that. We still don't understand that phenomena quite that well. But yeah, so, I mean, I'm going to enjoy these couple of days off with the clean air coming up here. And hopefully you guys can do the same. Then we're going to warm back up again next week through next weekend. Then we're going to really got to keep our fingers crossed here that we pick up this active pattern here through the following week, and maybe get some precipitation to squelch some of these fires. But anyway, we'll do this again tomorrow. There should be a La Nina update out for tomorrow, so we'll go over that and take a look at some new data for the La Nina conditions across the Central Pacific Ocean there. And I will talk to you guys then. Hope you guys are having a good day.